Hello, welcome to Hang with Willie. This is episode number 9. We are talking about the part 2 of Layla. All right, so I showed you part 1 last week, and now we're talking part 2. Let me switch over to that music. All right, so just briefly, in part 1, we did this. Now, also, in here, you're going to see that in the left hand, I might change around the left hand. This left hand is just a suggested left hand. Don't get too worked up about like, oh, the left hand is different than what's there. What is actually here is... All right, so, I mean, you could do that, or you could also get a little bit looser and freer in the left hand. All right, so anyway, then we move on to this. All right, and then now we're moving into part 2 here today. We're gonna start right here. So this is, I'm sorry. Sorry, actually, let me play it as written. Move this down. Move this over so I can get to that easier. Yeah, up here. Back into the... Okay, sorry. So let's break this down here. Let's do one line at a time. So we, if you haven't gotten the music, download the music. All right, so let's start right on here. This C chord right here. So it's just C, root 5 root down here. And then 3-5 root, 3-5 root, and then a C, G over B to A minor. This is a great chord progression right in here to really get to know that. Okay, so 1 to 5 with the 3 in the bass, and going down to the 6 minor. And the D minor right there. So let's do that A minor. See how I'm putting in the left hand in the spaces, okay? So I hold down the left hand and I have this left hand, like, okay, so you see right here, I'm playing the left hand just before I start that right hand phrase in here. This one, I'm bringing in the left hand in between these two quarter notes, okay? Kind of filling in that little bit of space right there. All right, and then let's move on here. So let's just take those few measures there. Whoops. And make this smaller. We can get most of that in there. All right. So let's do these 2 lines up to this C right over here. So. And then I played this G down an octave. Remember, obviously, the octaves and this stuff really doesn't matter. You can play it up here, you can play it down there, wherever it feels most comfortable. So let's do that again from that C chord. Oops, sorry. A minor. Let's move on. See, I hold that G down here as well. I just kind of like keep that held down throughout. Why not? You know, it's pretty easy enough to do. So let's do that whole line again from the D minor. All right, so let's talk theory here for a second. What's going on here theory-wise? Okay, so we go to that flat 7/7, and we come back to the 1 chord. This is 1. This is that passing chord going down to A minor. Okay, this is 6 minor. D minor is 2 minor. G is 5. C is 1. So this is a 6, 2, 5, 1 progression. And at this point, we just repeat, and we just go ahead back and do the entire thing again. Okay, and that's pretty much the entire middle coda section there of the song, right? Let's do the whole thing again here from the beginning, so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. Oh, and by the way, you could put that B in here as well. Okay, you could do that again. Put that B right in there. So you can play this as a chord note, put a chord note right down there, B. All right, and then to the A minor. I'm going to just move this down. Yeah, moving too far. Trying to help myself out, mess myself up. So this is a progression in which you could practice this and really utilize it as just a fun, free-form thing to play around with. You know, you don't have to stay very strict with it. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you get your progression. So C over E to an F. See how I'm starting to like use some of these? Since I'm in the key of C, I could use these kind of like these scale chords. And the scale chords are basically 2 types of chords. One in which it's like a grouping of a third and a grouping of a fourth up top, or grouping of a fourth and a third up top. So I can go this way. Now, which ones do I use? Just use your ear, okay? So you can think about it theoretically, like obviously that works well. So you see how I change these around as well? And I can do this kind of stuff as well. So you see what I did there? This is kind of like that fourth and the third up top. And now I switch to the third and the fourth up top. But then I extended that pinky one more time as well. So I'm kind of thinking of this all based around that C chord. So I can have some fun and just kind of like play around. let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I'm doing next. I'm just kind of like playing around and kind of making it a little bit more jazzy. Now, first of all, some of you might completely hate that. I understand, all right? You might not like that I'm moving in that jazzy realm. You might not even like my playing. Honestly, don't really care, all right? Because I'm playing for my own enjoyment here, all right? And to show you something. So it's, when I move into the jazzy stuff, it may or may not work. It may or may not be your thing. It doesn't really matter, okay? All we're doing is we're using this as a vehicle. We're using this as a learning tool, okay? So if you are one of the people that get really offended by like, oh, don't make it jazzy, just keep it rock, just remember that this is just a learning tool. Not to say that you're going to go and do this live and do it on a gig or play it for other people, but you might. It's completely up to you, and that's the beauty of music, is that you really have control over what do you want to say, all right? So what I'm thinking here is let me just think some big level chords and harmony rather than getting into the nitty gritty of like, well, these are the notes. You could see the virtual keyboard, you could pause it, and then that's where you could kind of get the notes. So I'm thinking C chord, and down here, I'm not gonna like, you know, I'm unabashedly gonna just be playing my tenths in there. If you can't hit the 10th, then just hit the octave instead. But I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I find myself going after. So if you can't hit that, if you can't reach that, that's okay. Just take off that top note. All right, but right now, since I'm just kind of like playing around with this, and it's not really like more of a lesson, it's more of like me just kind of sharing you some ideas with you, I'm going to play it the way that I would normally play it. Like, so you see how I'm like bring in like a lot of that Floyd Kramer kind of sound. If you haven't checked out my Chord Essentials, definitely check that out because you get some of these sounds in there. Now here, I kind of like going up to that B flat sus sound. So you see what I did here? Here I did kind of like a B diminished. And then that led me into the C. And then this is a E chord with G sharp in the bass. Why an E chord with G sharp in the bass? Because this E7 leads me where? To A minor. So rather than going C, G over B, then the A minor, I go C, E7 with G sharp in the bass to A minor. Dun, 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 dun. So you see, it's kind of a cool sound. It just kind of gives it a little bit of a different sound. A minor, D minor. Sorry, A minor, D minor. This is also another cool thing, just playing sixths. So you can do that as well. Sixths sound nicest. Again, in that section. So you see what I can do here? I can play that A minor, and I can do a, I can go A7 over C sharp, then go to the D minor. I could do D7 over F sharp, then go to the G. I can do G7 over B, then go to the C. E7 over G sharp. So I'm preceding all of these chords, the A minor, the D minor, the G, and the C, with their dominant seventh chords, okay? So before I get to before I get to A, play an E7 to A. Before I get to D, play an A7 to D. Before I get to G, play a D7 to G. Before I get to C, play a G7 to C. And all I'm doing in that left hand is playing an alternate note rather than the root motion. So rather than playing the root, I'll play the third of that dominant chord. So sus. So play G sus, G regular. Sorry. So again, that's kind of a cool sound, that A minor, then go to A7, then to D minor, then D7, then to G, and then G7 to C. So you can practice just that, you know? Sorry. Sus, G. Do it again. Speed it up. So anyway, you can have some fun trying to do that dominant motion, because that's a great exercise to practice moving those dominant chords. All right, so we can go back in there once again just to make sure you got it. So remember, the B section is that A minor, D minor, G to C. All I'm doing is I'm preceding each of those chords with their dominant chord, and then instead of the root in the left hand, playing the third of the dominant chord. So E7 over G sharp to A minor, A7 over C sharp to D minor, D7 over F sharp to G, and then G7 over B to C. Yeah. And then here I play a G sus, 4. So anyway, all right, so now let's talk about what's going to be going on with the hangs. A lot of times students will kind of take the summer and relax a little bit more during the summer from practicing the piano, even though that's a great time to like really just keep going with your practicing. But what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be pausing the hangs for the summer. Okay, so today is going to be the last Thursday hangout that we're going to have for the rest of the summer. We're going to regroup in the fall, and we'll see where we're at. We'll see, you know, we want to find out from you, do you like these hangs? Do you want to see them continue? I'll still be doing live stuff, but I think I might, instead of doing it every week, I might just do this as more of a special kind of thing rather than doing that weekly live hangout. So anyway, this will be the last hangout for now until at least the fall, unless we come up with something else to do. So, but if you're interested in seeing these continue, then definitely write in and let us know. The more that we hear from you, then the more that we know then this is something that people and students are really looking for. Also remember, go back to pianowithwillie.jazzedge.com/podcast, right? And you can get redirected right to our podcast and get all of these hangouts on our podcast, and you can listen on your phone or whatnot, listen in the car. You can also just go onto the iTunes podcast store and then just do a search for Piano with Willie, all right? And then our podcast will come up. If you do listen to the podcast, please leave a review. That helps us. That lets us once again know that people are listening, that they appreciate it, that they care about it, that they want to see more of it. And that's what helps us to get more of this stuff out to you. So anyway, thank you all very much for joining me for these hangs, and I will see you soon.